All right, guys, quite a different look today. I apologize in advance for the noise. There's a car wash literally 40 yards that way. The reason for all this, normally we do all the reviews, all the video stuff inside, and I do that on a day when the dealership's closed, so we have it to ourselves. Well, we got in a Sport Glide finally. This is the first one Timms has gotten in, and new bikes came out in January. So I was too scared to let this one sit around. It might get gone. So I thought we would try the review out this way. Again, we'll be back to the normal way of doing things on the next bike. It was just I didn't want this one to get away. So this is the Sport Glide. It's in the cruiser lineup of the Harley bikes. This is the Vivid Black Deluxe. And I had to look because I wasn't sure the difference in the Vivid Black and the Vivid Black Deluxe. The Deluxe comes with the painted bags. As far as Harley's website, that's the only real difference I could see on this one. So I never really gave the Sport Glide much interest, and that's because, to be honest, I was never really the biggest fan of the Switchback. And to me, although this looked a lot better than the Switchback, it seemed like the same thing with a little bit different look. So I just never really gave it a chance. Also, doing things completely different today. I've just gotten back from the test ride, which you'll still see that footage at the end of the video, but I wanted to ride it before I did the review. For one, so I would know a little more when I was talking about it, and two, I wanted to know if this fairing actually did anything or not. So with that, let's jump into the review.
All right, guys, so here it is, the Sport Glide in the Vivid Blacks Deluxe color paint way. I think the Deluxe adds 150 bucks. According to Harley's website. And again, the only thing I noticed different was the painted bags. Before we start the review, we'll do a walk around real quick just to let you check this bike out in case you haven't seen one. Like I said, I haven't seen one this year, so it was nice to finally get one. I like that we got it in black. Really digging this color. So we'll jump right into the review, starting with the tank and the graphic. So I am a big fan of this font. I love this little splash of orange, the Harley orange there. I don't hate the rest of this graphic, above and below, but I also think it might have looked pretty sick without it. You may have had to spread the Harley out a little more, but either way, like I said, I don't hate it. Moving around to the front of this bike, they do give you this, it's not a small windshield compared to like the Lowrider S, but it's not a big fairing either. Sorry, I said windshield, should have said fairing, because obviously your windshield is pretty small on this one. So this fairing is, I guess, middle of the road. It's definitely not a bat wing like your Street Glide, but again, not like the Lowrider S. So, like I said at the beginning, I've done the test ride on this bike before I jumped into the review, which is the opposite of how we normally do things. This whole day is just off. Like I said, I just didn't want this one to get sold before we got a chance to check it out. So, I rode it. That fairing, honestly, did absolutely nothing. I still felt all the wind, which is fine. You're riding a motorcycle. A lot of the appeal is, the wind in your hair, as they say. So, it didn't really bother me that I was getting a lot of wind, but you would think that would deflect a little, and maybe it does. Maybe if it was all the way off, I would notice a little bit of a difference, but with the fairing that's on there, still expect a good bit of wind. If you've watched any of the other videos or you've watched this channel at all, you'll know big fan of the inverted front end. I wish Harley would offer this on all bikes. I apologize for the noise, guys. Once again, we're outside. Next review, we should be back inside. Single disc front brakes on this bike, which I put to the test and had absolutely no trouble getting this bike slowed down quickly. However, I am a big fan of the dual disc. It's just a little more stopping power, and as we all know, that's kind of the name of the game. Go fast, stop fast, and then worry about looks when that's done. So I kind of would have liked to have seen dual disc front brakes. I don't know how much that would have jumped the price up, but that would have been a nice feature in my opinion. Your Sport Glide is going to come with the forward controls. Riding this bike, it was super comfortable. I can see actually doing a good bit of distance riding on this bike the way it's set up. The seat was really comfortable. It is set up for 2 up, so you get the passenger pillion, you get the pegs, which I've pointed out on some of the other bikes. These are about as low end as you can get for Harley pegs, but hey, it does come with it, and I mean, they serve the same exact function. I would probably upgrade those, but I would also change these controls, so take that with a grain of salt. That's just my opinion. Moving up to the gas tank, you do have the analog speedo, pretty much like every model's doing, with the digital gauge readout. We'll flip that on in case you've never seen it. Obviously all your lighting here to kind of show you what's going on. There was 1 mile on this bike when I rode it, so I felt a little guilty on the test ride. So we rode it 3 miles, as you'll see if you hang on until the end of the video. Just like all the rest, cycling through, you got your mileage, trip A, trip B, how many miles till empty, which is nice that it tells you, your clock, and then your RPM. It tells you your RPM in a digital format. Obviously the engine's not running, so we're on 0. It also does do the gear indicator to let you know what gear you're in, which I really do like. One thing I thought was great on this bike is you do have the cruise control option here. I love that on a bike like this. You know, this is kind of stepping out into that territory where you might do some rides and you might go a little bit farther. So I really like that they put the cruise control on this particular bike. Now you'll notice you do get the 107 on this bike, which, as we've said many times, is definitely no slouch. It's not the 114, but in my opinion, if you do a high flow air cleaner, you do a full exhaust, meaning you change the head pipe, not just the muffler to get the sound, which if you don't want to spend all the money, you don't want to tune your bike, that's all you got to do. $300 to $500 set of slip-ons, and it sounds like a Harley should. But stage 1's full head pipe, full exhaust, open air cleaner, and a tune on this bike. To me, that feels about the same as the 114 out of the box. So obviously if you do the same to the 114, it's gonna move it back ahead again. But point being, the 107 is plenty of motor, especially in a bike of this size. I would like the 114 option, but I'm not mad at the 107 at all. So you do get the external adjustable suspension on the rear. You can adjust this shock for your rider weight. If you've got a passenger, if you've got a lot of weight in your saddlebags, you can adjust it externally. So the other Softail models, again, my apologies about all the noise. We're working with what we can. So on the other Softail models, you can adjust the rear shock the same way, except you take the seat off, so it's one seat screw and then they give you a wrench to do it. I like this external a little bit better. It's just a little bit easier to me. I mean, not that it's a big deal, it's just if you don't have a screwdriver handy or you don't have your wrench with you, then it can be a little bit of a pain, but not the end of the world. So these bags, I really like that the bags have the one-touch feature like the touring bikes. As you see, you can lock your bags up here. So you open it, it feels really good. So it's got these hydraulic hinges in here that kind of lets it open a little slowly. You've got the net here. Because the weird clamshell way that this bag opens, it is kind of, you know, makes you feel like your stuff might fall out, which is, I guess, the point in these nets to kind of help keep that from happening. In the saddlebag, we've just got an owner's manual. Here's the keys. Not a crazy amount of room in here, but plenty for one person, and if you pack light enough, you could do 2 in this thing. I was curious about this, but I see on the sticker it says, do not put more than 15 pounds in each saddlebag. I feel like every single person that has a Sport Glide is definitely going over that weight. It doesn't take much to get up to 15 pounds. I mean, it feels fairly secure. I'd be fine with 20. I mean, that may be an arbitrary number, but either way, we'll open this side. I mean, same thing, but kind of let you see in there. So like I said, I never really gave the Sport Glide much attention. Now that they're doing these painted saddlebags, painted to match, I do really like that option. So to me, this bike looks a lot better. One thing we didn't talk about when we were on the front end was this wheel. I think we should address that. I'm not really a fan of directional wheels. I'm not really a fan of the wheel that they chose. It's a really nice finish, it is a nice wheel. I just don't love the look personally. You know, in your rear, it's pretty much hidden, so you don't really notice. See, that doesn't look too bad. But for my preference, my style, my taste, don't love that wheel. Let me know in the comments if you're on board with that wheel or not. I can't think of one right off that I would change it to, but I would definitely change this wheel if it were my personal bike. The bars on this bike were comfortable. Again, I rode 3 miles, so take that with a grain of salt, guys. I'm not trying to sell you on this or give Harley any unjust credit for their decisions or the equipment that comes on these bikes. I rode it 3 miles, so when I say it's comfortable, again, use your discretion on that. But once again, just like the wheel, I don't love the look of these bars. It's kind of got like a beach bar look. Your elbows are kind of down, just kind of, to me, I felt like I was slouching. It was comfortable, but it's not set up, in my opinion, as like an aggressive style of riding, which is a little more my speed. So I do like the mid controls over the forwards, and I like a little bit taller, a little bit narrower bar. As you can see, these are pretty wide here. Moving back around to the back, you see I finally got my centered license plate. I don't love the sport bike style plastic way of doing that. You do have a little light under there, a little LED light. So I like that the license plate is now centered, but I don't love the way that they did it. I would like to see some kind of lay flat option up here on the fender. I don't know visibility wise from the back if that's going to be a problem for your local law enforcement because the angle that would be showing at, but nonetheless, I would like to see that. Not a clue what you would do with these tail lights and turn signals as far as relocating them if you did want to do away with the plastic mounting piece there, but I'm sure someone has something for that. I think that's pretty much it for this Sport Glide. Like I said, I've already done the test ride, but I'll go ahead and roll that footage for you now. Let me know down in the comments below if you're into the Sport Glide, or let me know any cool builds you've seen them do on this bike.
All right, guys, taking off on the Sport Glide. Like I said, I've never ridden one of these. I did ride the Switchback a good bit, just working at the dealership, would get tons of used ones. So I was familiar with the bike. Never ridden the Sport Glide, basically same concept but on soft-tail frame now. Definitely looks a lot better as well, I will say that for sure. The bags, the front end, the whole thing. I mean, Sport Glide's a pretty good looking bike. The clamshells look nice. I don't love that saddlebag design, I get it, but not my favorite saddlebag option. But I do like the look, say, over like what comes on the Heritage. So, I mean, you're not gonna love every single thing about every bike. That's just, you know, how it goes. Harley can't design it so specific to your needs and expect everybody else to like it. Because obviously, if you've ever been to any kind of bike show or any kind of rally, you'll know that there are tons of different tastes out there. Not all of them what I would call good or tasteful. But nonetheless, this bike is very comfortable, but I'm not riding it that far, so take that with a grain of salt. Most of your dealerships, if you're a serious buyer, are going to let you test ride these things. So definitely, you know, ask them, you know, be respectful, make sure you know the boundaries and know how far you're able to take it without kind of making them too upset. The big thing being, you don't want to put 100 miles on a bike and then not buy it, and then the dealership has to sell a bike with tons of miles even though it's new. But with that, ride it as much as you can is what I'm getting at, just so that way you make sure you know what the deal is. These forward controls on this bike, super comfortable. If you watched any of my videos, I've beaten this to death. You know how I feel. I prefer mids based strictly on the performance aspect of them, but longer trips, honestly, it's nice to stretch your legs out. On the bikes with mids, I find myself just kind of stretching my leg out into the air just to kind of get the blood flowing and stuff, unbend my knees a little bit. So, and unless you're just going to go super aggressive, then there's no real need for mid controls.
I will say I have seen some pretty awesome Sport Glide builds, so I'm looking forward to us doing one. Well, I say us, it's Timms. I'm looking forward to Timms doing one, especially since it's not my money, but so that we can review one on the channel. I know that Laidlaw Harley Davidson out in California, they did a really nice one. I forgot what they called that one. They named it something, Coast Glide, I think, or something. But if you haven't seen it, just check out that. You probably just type in Laidlaw Harley Davidson Sport Glide and find it. And then also on Instagram, there are a ton of them. The big fairing on the front seems to be the move with these bikes. Like I said in the review, this fairing they put on this bike, I mean, I know it is doing something, but it's really not that noticeable. So, I mean, if you're going to have a fairing, I want it to actually work. Otherwise, let's just take it off. I kind of feel the same thing about the Lowrider S. I'd like to change that one out for a bigger, taller one as well. So nothing against the Sport Glide there. Also, I'm curious if they have windshields to replace. As you can see, this windshield's only like 2 inches tall. I don't know what that does for cosmetics of the bike, but typically if you're running a big windshield, your concern is, you know, getting the wind off of you. I know I would do that on my stuff in the winter. I don't care what it looks like. Just I'm fine with throwing lowers on a street glide or road glide. Same thing with the big windshields that I don't think look that great. But I will say you need to find a windshield that you either look through or over, because one thing that's terrible is it's the height that's like right at your line of sight, so you're looking like kind of right there where that line, the top of it stops. That's not a very good place. Kind of like the view on this chest mount GoPro that the majority of you hate. That's kind of what it's like if you put the wrong size windshield, so just keep that in mind. Also, still waiting on my new helmet. It's not a normal situation, so that's why we've yet to switch to the full-time helmet mount. But as you guys have noticed, I do have 2 GoPros now, so as soon as the new helmet comes in, we will start mounting from the helmet and then just do an alternate view somewhere on the bike. Let me know what view you guys would like to see, actually, because I know a lot of people that do these videos do a camera facing them. I don't necessarily know why you would want to see that, but if you do, let me know. It would be a good opportunity for me to plug First Manufacturing, which is the vest I'm wearing in this video. Actually, they make the hoodie that's in the vest too. This hoodie came in a different vest, the Rook, the denim one that I have. But anyway, check them out. Use code SNIPES25 for a 25% discount, which is crazy. As always, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Be sure and like the video. Leave me a comment. Do all the stuff. Thanks, guys.